coffee. I got the coffee. Oh my gosh, you guys, you know what time it is? Oh wait, did I just spill coffee? No, I didn't. Okay, we're good. We're good. Crisis averted. You guys know what time it is? You know what time it is? You know what time it is? It's time for Soulsborne Academy 101. Be prepared. Sit your butts down. I am Professor Huggable Hipster here. Not Professor Mikolash, host of the Nightmare, because I would be bad. And let's get ready for a little Soulsborne 101. I'm going to be diving in to the top 5 things that you should know before going into Bloodborne. Now, hear me out, hear me out. Some people might have already said these things. Some people might have already glossed over them, mentioned them, everything. But I want to be able to put it into a nice little cohesive video for you guys. That way, even if there is somewhat of a spoiler, I am going to put this in the description at the very top. That way you guys can see, even if it does spoiler a little bit of the beginning, just it's minutia, not to the point of where like, story spoilers, but you know, the coffee just hits different when you haven't had it in like 2 days. So the first one that we're gonna go over, not necessarily a tip, but more of a caveat really, be aware that there is a lycanthrope when you first enter into the game. It is your first true kind of experience of what dying over and over again is going to be. Now, keep in mind, my perspective of the game, I had already seen walkthroughs, I had already seen things about the game. My first experience and my first real like, oh my gosh, I want to get this game moment was seeing the boss battle Orphan of Cause. You're probably thinking, Ariel, that is the weirdest reasoning of why you wanted to buy this game. But hear me out. Having a monster throw its sack of placenta at you and the story that it has behind it, that was a really weird lead up, but the story that it has behind it and the story of Bloodborne, those were the really 2 main things that led me to get it. The main one being Orphan of Cause, because it just looked really badass. So the thing is that when you first encounter this lycanthrope, you've already made your character. You've already been given your, you know, your hunter blood. You've already been inside Losefka's clinic, so when you really weren't supposed to be there in all actuality, we're little rebels over here sneaking in. Okay, technically not sneaking in, she took us in because she's just an amazing person. Now, one thing I do want to add in is that for the next few episodes, there is another Soulsborne Academy episode coming up this week, so that episode is going to be how to create your character in Bloodborne, what's the best way to approach it, and that's what I'm going to be doing for all the Souls games that I've played personally, besides Dark Souls 2 and Sekiro. Reason for that is that Sekiro, you can't really create a character like you can in the other Souls games. You can only enhance it with different qualities and different attributes and whatnot. In Dark Souls 2, I didn't finish that game yet, so it wouldn't be fair of me to create a character in that game and show you when I haven't completed it myself. So yeah, I'm going to be creating characters with you guys for Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 3, and Bloodborne. That way I can show you guys what characters are the best to create that will give you, as a beginner, the most leverage and kind of give you the most bang for your buck. Back to the list. Yes, you've awakened. With literally no weapons, nothing to your name, you are going to encounter a lycanthrope. I would highly recommend dying. Don't bother just taking on this thing, okay? You have nothing really to fight it with besides your bare fisticuffs. After that, you wake up in the hunter's dream. At first, I didn't think I was supposed to die. I knew I'd seen a playthrough of the game, but I didn't remember that I was supposed to die. So I went on, I think I died literally right off the bat. I punched it a few times and then it just killed me. But the thing is that whenever you die into the hunter's dream, you go into your hub, you go into the place where you're going to meet Garum the First Hunter, you meet the doll that actually was based off of Lady Maria. So yeah, that's basically what is supposed to happen. So if you die in that kind of mini, not so mini, it was more like a minute battle, you don't worry, that's supposed to happen. The second tip I want to give you guys, choose your starter weapon very, very wisely. While you will be able to get other weapons throughout the game, this is the most crucial part, I think, of the beginning of the game, is choosing your weapon. That way it will benefit you in the long run. Now, with the following weapons, you can do some types of damage, but in my opinion, the only really good starter weapon is the Hunter Axe. Yeah, the Saw Cleaver is really good, but you have to really level that one up a lot before you can do immense amounts of damage. It's the same with the Hunter Axe, but the Hunter Axe early on really does a good bit of damage when you know how to utilize it correctly. Because you have the Hunter Axe, you have the Saw Cleaver, you have the Blunderbuss, and you have the pistol. You're still dealing with beginner basic weapons, so leveling up is your key to making that beginner weapon into something stunning. Another tip I want to be able to give to you guys, because this is not something I really grasped until I played through, is that much like Dark Souls, you can create shortcuts throughout the world. And the world is very much linked in kind of this circular motion, each part of it, especially in the very beginning of the game. So creating shortcuts and creating ways to get to, you know, main bosses really quickly, to getting back to certain areas really quickly, are going to end up being your best friend. Tip number 4, and I cannot stress this enough, please study the enemy's movements. I'm going to be doing a dedicated video on this, but please understand how to read enemies' movements. The one thing that I really love to do is a good old bait and tackle to see what enemies' movements are. That way you can bait them into an attack, and then once they're down or once they have a movement of where they pause for a brief second, then you go in for the attack. Because it makes things easier. It makes their movements more readily available for you to read and understand. Another thing I really like to do is that when you go into a boss fight, whether it's a side boss or a main boss, go around them in a big circle, because that way you can see what kind of movements they do, if they are very fast paced, if they're slow, whatever it is. Because the fact of the matter is that there are some bosses that their movements are not easily readable, and it kind of sucks. But there are bosses like Ebriatus, Daughter of the Cosmos, Martyr Logarius, if I remember his name correctly. Those are really 2 bosses in Bloodborne that have their movements telegraphed very, very well. There are other bosses in Bloodborne, like Vicar Amelia. Her movements are telegraphed beautifully. So well done. Same thing with, what's his face? Same thing with Murgo's wet nurse. All their movements very beautifully telegraphed. You have to study the movements and you have to understand them before you can even think about really going in and taking them on. Going in and just attacking and attacking and attacking will get you dead. Like, there are some experts that can just really go in and do that because they understand the game and they've learned it and they know it. But that would not be my advice for beginners. Go in, study the movements, understand what you're attacking before you attack it. And the last tip I want to give to you guys is know when to fight and know when to run. There is a great benefit in just running from an encounter that you know you are going to die from. The fact of the matter is that when you try to take on a boss before you level up, you will die. Like, you can try to take it on and you might get in a couple of hits and everything like that, but going into something under-leveled and doing something that you know you're not prepared for just to test it out, no, don't put yourself through that. Now, you don't have to listen to me. I'm not telling you guys what to do, but this is just my best advice. Study the movements, understand your weapon, go into the game knowing that there are definite risk versus reward benefits to some of the things that you're going to do early on, especially whenever, much like Elden Ring, you can encounter bosses that you don't even have to fight. And also, one thing I would recommend is know what bosses, and this is just a side note, know what bosses to fight that are optional. And which ones to just avoid early on, because the Cleric Beast is completely optional. Not a lot of people know this, but I didn't even know this when I was first diving into it. I thought you had to fight the Cleric Beast. I will say this, one of my bragging rights that I will take with me to my grave is that I beat the Cleric Beast in one go. I didn't die or anything, and I was so incredibly happy with myself, and I had an ego boost for the rest of that week. But you guys, that was it for this video. If you guys like these tips, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell down below because I make videos every day here on YouTube. If you guys have any tips of your own that you want to share with the community, put them down in the comments below. I would love to read them. But stay casually nerdy, you guys. I will see you all in the next video. Bye, you guys.